Okay. Apart from voting, what do you see as the rights and responsibilities of tribal members? And I think what to follow up there with some context there is, do you think tribal council does it all and should do it all? Meaning making almost all the decisions. The legislature and the executive branch all rolled in one is what we have on our tribal council. What rights and responsibilities are there of tribal members with our current government? So let's go, Cheryl.
Well, one of the things that I've consistently said throughout the years is that we need to change our general member ordinance. It's in the Constitution, and there are certain powers that are given that are pretty unreasonable. There have been several attempts to allowing our members to have more of a voice by diminishing the number of people it would take to, for example, do a recall or to submit a petition or any of those things. I still think it's a good idea to pursue that. I believe that the community forums, and I'm so thankful and applaud every one of you for coming here today, needs to be attended to. I know that sometimes they're downplayed by certain individuals that says, oh, there was only 20 people. What is that with the tribe of 5,400 people? Doesn't give us a lot of information. So participation in the community meetings to help decide what projects, or not only projects, but what changes in the Constitution that people want. A lot of times they're kind of focused, but there's an open forum that you can write and say anything that you want. I believe that needs to be participated in more. I love it when members write to the editor and to present their comments. I think that's a wonderful venue for folks to take advantage of and to express their thoughts and ideas. I think that any kind of gatherings that are held at throughout wherever they're at, it's wonderful to have tribal members come and participate, whether it be more of a social event versus, a political event. But any of those things, our first fish ceremonies that are held here in Portland and then in Grand Ronde, any of those kind of venues are wonderful. Our Elders Honor Days, our cultural meetings here in Portland, specifically in Portland, there's things that go on in our Portland office, and I would love it if all of the members would use that building and take advantage of situations. I believe that with that kind of group, the solidarity that it would form would be pretty strong and pretty powerful. And for all of our members to vote, as candidates, we see who's registered to vote and who isn't. And there's a multitude of folks who are not registered to vote. So to exercise that basic right, I think is needs to be met yet. So those are just some of the things that I think about in the areas that our members can be involved. I do know that there have been petitions that have been somewhat effective, and I think even though the numbers weren't there, it was paid attention to, because there were a few hundred people who took the time to exercise their right and sign their name and say, I want this done. This needs to be changed. So the SCA, you all have that out right now. If you would complete that and send that in, it's a wonderful opportunity. So anyhow, there are many things that are going on, and I agree that a calendar needs to be set up for members whereby they can access all the various activities, meetings that are going on that are held by the tribe.
Sure.
think one of the problems today with, and I truly believe that after not being on council for these months, is that I think we need to do a restructure of council business in regards to how we do business. We are the tribal council is so involved with day-to-day operations of the government instead of focusing on the things that are going to make a better life for tribal members. We're so focused on what's going on within the organization instead of letting managers manage. I think they micro manage way too much. One of the things that I put in my letter to the editor for my candidacy was, I think one of the most powerful things that we could do is to vote. That's the most power that a tribal member really has. And what I am pushing, or what I will be pushing if I do get elected, is for the first time in the history, Oregon has a motor voter registration. We should be able to do that in Grand Ronde. We should be able to have instead of motor vehicle ID, that if you have a tribal ID and you are collecting per capita, then you should be registered to vote automatically. And none of this, trying to get people registered, and you have to register within 3. It is so restrictive of how you get to register and communicate with your tribal membership. So I'm going to be pushing a motor voter registration for tribal members to be able to vote. And I think also it has become so restrictive of the information, like Cheryl, and in my letter also I talk about that the ordinances need to be able to be in line with the Constitution. And they talk about recall. Well, you get to recall, the member can recall, but it gives you no process of how you do that, and it gives you no process of how to get information of tribal members, which you need signatures for. So those ordinances, instead of the council being in the business of the organization, they should be looking at every one of those ordinances. They should be looking at every one of those programs and evaluating them and seeing if they need to be changed. They do need to be changed. I can say that firsthand. They need to be changed. The ordinances need to be looked at. They're supposed to be looked at every year. The policies and procedures, those are the things that we should be working on instead of day-to-day operations. I believe that with the motor voter or tribal counts or tribal ID per capita registering to vote, I think that people would be sent their ballots and more people would start to vote instead of it being so controlling that you can't have any information. If I was a tribal council member, we should be able to have access to people's phone numbers to call them and say, hey, I'm going to be in Bend. I'd really like to meet up with you. And tribal council should be able to do that and talk to their membership. Right now, it is so restrictive. You can't have any information about anything. I can't even go and visit a tribal elder who might be in the hospital or a nursing home because it is so restrictive. And I think that isn't the Indian way. The Indian way is to know your membership, to care about them and reach out to them, whether they're ill or whether they need to be registered to vote, or say, hey, just thinking about you today. And I don't think it needs to be such a big secret. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you're right.
Kind of went on a
You
rant.
want to restate that? She sent me off in a whole nother.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the question. So what do you see as the rights, but also the responsibility of tribal members, where currently we have a tribal council that does it all? Micromanages, makes all the decisions. So what rights do you see we should have, and what should also be our responsibility as tribal members?
Honestly, I believe that pretty much just about all of our rights have been stifled in one manner or another. I believe the only right we really do have is our right to vote. That's intact today. And I know I was going to talk about the ordinances, but Kathy pretty much hit on those. In my letter to the general membership, I stated that I think we should look at least 10 years back and go through each and every one of them and readdress them, because over time, it has just taken away from the membership, and really all power is with tribal council. And, you know, someone gave me something, and it was a purpose ordinance, which was part of the tribal council ordinance. And I read that, and it was amended in, I believe, '93. And it was beautiful to read. It talked about respect. It talked about values. It talked about how councils to treat the membership. And if you read that, and I would encourage everyone to do so, especially tribal council. And we went back and put that in our thought. Every ordinance would be rewritten, and I believe that needs to happen. But vote.
Brenda, please.
Okay, I'm going to start with responsibilities. I asked this question on my blog, I think 3 years ago. What are our responsibilities as citizens of the Confederated Tribe of Grand Ronde? No comments whatsoever. So I found that interesting. I think, for me, I think we need to educate ourselves. We cannot just sit by and collect our money. We do it with all the problems the tribe has, and with all the issues with lack of openness and transparency and all of that stuff. We still can be responsible for ourselves. So I think we need to educate ourselves. I think we need to not perpetuate gossip. I think we need to respect our fellow tribal members. I think we need to participate online, even if we're out of the community. We need to participate in the meetings online. We need to do whatever we can to put ourselves in the position to where we can give feedback, and we will be heard. I think our rights are to be respected, to be heard, and I think we also, one of the things I talk about in my letter is we have a right to have a tribal council who can be decisive, who can make decisions and act upon what tribal council members ask for or tribal members ask for. For example, the term limits. They did a survey, it took 5 years for them to put something out like that. Thanks.
The rights of our members and the responsibility from them is for them to stand up and have a united front for that. You know, they have a right to information. They have a right to ask the questions, you know, for that, and for one way, and sometimes, you know, a member may not feel like that they can be heard, and that's why I think, you know, in my letter too, we look at for an advocate for our members also, and it be in anything, if it's concerning their health care or concerning their education or concerning, you know, wanting to present an idea. And so in that sense, you know, they deserve to be heard. You know, and as we look at that, and that is to be, you know, to be heard in a respectful way in our general council meetings, in our, you know, in the Wednesday night council meetings. I like the idea, and I would like to present also, you know, an opportunity, even if there's a member in Florida, you know, that would like to be heard, that there's an opportunity for them to actually be Skyped in our meetings, you know, and so that way, you know, it just doesn't become a local, you know, concern, but it should be a global concern also for our membership. And so I think that with today's technology, you know, there should be a way then that they have an opportunity to also ask those questions. So I would be very supportive of that. I'd like to look at that, you know, and to present that idea, you know, we have an IS team, you know, in our tribe. You know, we have iPhones. We're capable of getting on the World Wide Web and everything too, the way we can either. So, you know, as a tribe. So, thank you.
Again, I have to put these on. These are forgot my glasses. Some of the things that I spearheaded while on tribal council, and when you're on tribal council, you have to get, you know, everybody on the same page to get anything done. And you can have all the ideas in the world, but part of being a leader is getting everybody to also accept that idea and like it. And so one of the things that I am very proud of is as I push forward the tribal elders increase in their tribal elders pensions. And I would still like to see that increase by COLA. And I believe that when you're budgeting, when a tribal council is budgeting for the organization, that as a Native person, you always remember your elders, and they're on a fixed income. And so I think that when we budget, or when the council budgets, that they need to include COLAs for the elders, because Social Security does it, and I think that we need to do it. Another thing I'm very proud of is I brought the Chinook Indian language app to the tribe, and collectively everybody accepted that, and which, you know, I believe that if we sit down and put down on paper all the things that we can agree with and work on those, I think that we would get a lot more things done. So I was very happy that I brought that forward. Also, let's see, elders pension, COLA, the language, and I also pushed forward the increase in the minimum wage. And I was very happy that everybody else agreed with that, and I still think it needs to be increased. And the other thing that I want to work on that I left, and I don't know where it is right now, is equal pay for women. I know that when I was there was not equal pay for women, and I think that needs to be really looked into, analyzed, and see where we are. But at the time when I wasn't reelected, it hadn't gone anywhere. So that's one of the things I'd like to see. The other part, the biggest thing that I've been working on for 9 years, and some people don't agree with the Boys and Girls Club, but it's an organization that is doesn't see any ethnic group. It takes care of everybody, and I think that we could create one that was for the whole community to be involved in. And it's a great mentorship program. It's a great program for children of all ages. If it wasn't such a great program, it wouldn't be around as long as it has. So I would really like to have that, to mentor our young people so that they have things to do there during the summertime and after school. And so that would be one of my goals.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
And a voter motor.
As a non-tribal council member, I have a bit of a different take on what I'm proud of. I was at the tribe and worked for the tribe for 6 years, and during that period, I feel like I had some great successes. One of them was acquiring the Portland area office. I was very proud of that. I think it's a beautiful building. It's something our membership in this area can utilize, and the fact that we get a income off that property as well, that was something that meant a lot to me. When I first came here, we were in a really poorly maintained building, and there was concerns and talks about closing. And that was very concerning to me. I felt it was very important that the Portland membership had a voice. So I immediately moved towards reaching out to the tribal council and saying, well, wait a minute, you know, if we buy a building, and it has extra square footage, we can offset those costs and have a recognition in our ceded lands in the Portland area. And Tribal Council approved that, and I moved forward, and I'm very happy with the building in Portland. I think it's a really good asset for the tribe. In addition to that, the Russellville Commons was a 250-unit apartment complex. I oversaw the sale of that and did all the negotiations for that, and it was about $34 million sale, and the tribe got a very nice return on our investment on that. So I was very pleased with that as well. Cherry City Center, I also managed and operated that property, and that was 2008 through 2014, a very difficult time in the real estate industry, as most of you know. And we did a very good job of keeping our lights on. We did not go vacant during that period, and that was very difficult. So I was very proud of that. I feel like during my time at the tribe, I did some really good things, and I made the tribe and the membership some good income on their investments, and I'm very pleased with that. Thank you.
I guess I'll begin with the work on restoration. Worked on restoration for a number of years, traveling far distances to come to all of the meetings and to help in drafting the Constitution and all of the requirements that it took for us to be restored. It was almost a 15-year process, and I always want to give credit to those that credit is due. And of course, Margaret Provost, Marvin Kimsey, and Merle Holmes were the initiators and leaders at that time. So, you know, I feel that that's kind of pinnacle of the work that I had done, being hired then as one of the first 3 employees of the tribe to develop all of the health and the social human services for the tribe was also very fulfilling. Started that with a needs assessment of every member that we had and identifying and talk about input. There was only one family that didn't participate in that survey. Those were telephone or face-to-face surveys or mailers. And so it really represented what the people wanted and needed. All of the health services, acquiring and amassing all of the multi-millions of dollars that I was responsible for, all of the backbone of all the grants that are written today, I wrote them. And those are now is what the tribe is continuing to deliver services with. The health services up to the construction of the health clinic that we all enjoy and I still feel is very beautiful. In 1996, as the health executive director, I submitted a claim and met with the Indian Health Service with the demand that they fully fund us in our contract support costs. It took all of these years, finally, of litigation that started about 3 years ago after trying to negotiate acquiring and being paid for multi-million dollars for what they owed us. So that was a very sweet feeling to know that you stay with something, you keep at it, and you will get a result. The other thing that I find real important, and it hasn't happened yet, is the museum. The work on the museum, it's been struggling, but I know that I have the tenacity, the perseverance, and the patience to keep that on deck and to make sure that it one day is going to be fulfilled, hopefully here real soon. Ceded lands, I think people probably call me Miss Ceded Lands because I truly believe in that. It's the remnant of our treaties, and I always say that's what we know, that we had our treaty signers who died, given their lives for what we have today. ceded lands means that we have a presence in all of the development of those lands that we ceded, that we will be considered the partner for any development, and where it goes, that we need to be consulted. And so, you know, to my dying day, I will never give up on those rights and on our sovereignty.
Thank you, Sharon. Brendan or John? Brendan.
Wow, we have some tribal council members who have done some great things. So mine's going to be from a little bit of a different perspective. It's interesting because some of the stuff that makes me the most proudest is things that I do in private. And I usually don't talk about them because I like to do them without being acknowledged. But I donate to our community garden. I work in our community garden. I donate to our food bank and work there. I donate clothes, coats, and those are the things that I think help our community the most. But if I do need to brag, I guess I could say that I have always promoted education and will continue to promote education in our community, because I believe that it really does open doors and can change lives, both individually and tribe-wide. I have voted every year possible, and one of the most important things, and the things that hit home the most, was last year while I was running. I had the opportunity to build relationships, some amazing relationships with our elders and people I didn't know before. So most of the stuff I do is in the background.
Thank you, Brenda. I think, you know, in that sense, you know, I think those are true values and characters of a true leader. You know, not always wanting to be the one that raises your hand and say, look what I did, you know, ain't I great, you know. But the part of is that it's about the hard work that you do and the supporting role also that you can take. And I looked at, I know years ago, while I was in the VR program as a VR specialist, we began a project with some of our workers and tribal members and some staff, you know, about starting an employment training office there. There was many years of work on that and everything. It got presented, you know, but it was turned down. And so I'm so glad today that we look at that we actually do have basically an employment training office now, an HR building that, you know, that combines all of our employment services together to support our membership and the preference and the hiring preference that, along with Terrell. You know, so I look at things, you know, that when you meet with your managers and stuff of the departments and stuff, bringing up the idea of, you know, like you said, how can a member learn, and this is culturally, how can a member learn to weave a basket, no matter where they live? And so I suggested, you know, saying, you know, why don't you make a video like that, and so somebody in New York, you know, can learn to make a basket like we do here, so that they can be involved in, just like it would be in a class, you know, if they were sitting in Grand Ronde. You know, and in those parts, or say like Florida, if they, you know, because we almost have at least one tribal member in all of our 50 states, in 48 states. And so learning our style of basket here, you know, in our area, they can also, you know, order a kit from Grand Ronde, and then once they have that material, but then they can take their material that they have in that area and still learn to make a basket in our style, but it may be out of the grasses and the reeds and the stuff that they have in their area, but still at least they know that they're making a Grand Ronde basket. You know, and so those, and I think my part, I think that I play becomes sometimes is a silent partner.